If you're just like me and you finished watching 50 Cent's Diddy documentary on Netflix, you probably noticed something incredibly strange. Jay-Z wasn't in it, not even once. There were no photos, no mentions, and absolutely nothing. That's because Netflix allegedly banned an entire segment from episode 4. It was reportedly titled The Jay-Z Tapes, and 50 Cent fought aggressively to keep it in, but it was cut at the last second. I am about to tell you exactly what they didn't want you to see. Look, I know what you're thinking right now. You're probably wondering how some random YouTuber knows what got cut from a Netflix documentary. That's fair, but here is the thing: I have receipts. I've been following blind items about this documentary for months now. Here is something wild. I previously discussed how 50 Cent had a massive argument with the documentary producers because he wanted too much control. Everyone thought I was making it up, but then Gene Deal confirmed it was true in his latest interviews. So yeah, I'm not just throwing random theories at your way. And get this, 50 Cent himself posted on Instagram just a few days ago. The caption read, "Yes, I have the footage, lol, go check it out."
Playing football and they wasn't playing hockey or soccer for Diddy to come on stage, pat him on his ass, and then make the statement to people in the world that can't nobody call me Sean but Jay-Z. Now, I don't know what kind of statement, and I can't say, I wish I could say half a homo, but I know I can't say it, but I don't know what kind of half a homo that is. And you trying to say that you're not close to somebody. You coming on stage, patting them on their ass, and then you making a broad statement to the public, can't nobody call me Sean but Sean Carter. And I heard Jay-Z said the same thing about them. But they were so close that they had matching white girls together.
When 50 says he has the footage and adds that laughing emoji, you know he's sitting on something massive. He's basically telling the world that everything I'm about to share with you actually exists. Netflix just chose not to show it to you. But before we get into the crazy stuff that got cut, let me ask you something. Did you notice how literally everyone else in that documentary caught heat? J-Lo was in there, Biggie was discussed, Cassie was front and center, yet Jay-Z was completely missing, not even a single photo. That is not an accident, my friend, that is damage control. When someone that powerful gets a complete pass while everyone around them is getting exposed, you have to ask yourself, what are they hiding? So buckle up, because this is about to get wild.
Jay-Z sit down with Gayle King and she not ask him one question about the intersection between him and Aaliyah and Robert Kelly. This is insane that people keep refusing.
All right, so before we dive into what got cut, you need to understand something important. And don't worry, I'm not going to go into their history or anything like that. I'm going to cover what you clicked for. Jay-Z and Diddy weren't just business partners who bumped into each other at parties. They were close, like really close. And I'm not talking about making music together, I'm talking about something way deeper. Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard who has been spilling all the tea lately, came out and destroyed the claims made by Jay-Z's lawyers. You see, when Diddy started facing all these charges, Jay-Z's legal team quickly released a statement saying they weren't even really friends. Gene Deal said that was a lie in the realest way possible. Interview. Gene explained that these two weren't just playing basketball, baseball, or football together. So why did Diddy come on stage in Atlanta and pat Jay-Z on his backside? Then Diddy literally told the whole world, "Can't nobody call me Sean but Jay-Z." Now, I don't know about you, but that's a pretty specific type of closeness, if you know what I mean. Jay-Z even said the same thing right back to Diddy. Gene even mentioned they used to have matching women together. When they would see each other, they would ask how the other's partner was doing. This isn't the type of stuff casual acquaintances talk about. This is the type of bond where you know each other's deepest secrets. And that's exactly why Jay-Z is running for the hills right now. But here is where it gets interesting. You remember when Jaguar Wright went on Piers Morgan's show and started talking about Jay-Z and Diddy? That segment got deleted so fast it will make your head spin.
Oh, here's a fun little fact. I actually have verifiable knowledge of all 15 of Mr. Carter's illegitimate children that he hides from the world.
Jaguar was explaining why people in the industry are too scared to come forward, and then she started naming names. Next thing you know, that whole segment disappears from the internet. When someone has that much power, the power to erase conversations from major TV platforms, you know they're protecting something massive. So let's get into what 50 Cent actually wanted to show you in episode 4. The first bombshell was about Jay-Z's secret life. And when I say secret, I mean secret. We're talking about children, lots of them. These are children that the world doesn't know about because Jay-Z has allegedly paid millions of dollars to keep their mothers quiet. Don't believe me? Listen to Jaguar Wright. This woman has been in the industry for decades and she does not hold back. In one clip that went viral, here we go. Interview. Jaguar straight up says she has verifiable knowledge of all 15 of Mr. Carter's illegitimate children that he hides from the world. 15? Let that sink in for a second. That is not one or two kids from a past relationship. That is 15 children whose existence has been buried under NDAs and payoffs. 50 Cent wanted to bring some of these women forward. He wanted to show the receipts, the legal document. TS and the proof that Jay-Z has been paying to keep these stories buried. But Netflix said absolutely not. It was too risky, there was too much legal exposure, and honestly, there was probably too much pressure from Jay-Z's team. Think about it though, if you're just a regular, successful businessman, why do you need to hide 15 kids? Why are you paying out millions to keep their mothers quiet? What else are you hiding? These are the questions 50 wanted viewers to ask, but Netflix made sure you never got the chance. Now, this next part is going to make you uncomfortable, and it should, because if even half of what Jaguar Wright says is true, this is straight-up trafficking. 50 Cent had multiple sources ready to go on camera about this, but again, Netflix cut it all. Here is what was supposed to be in episode 4.
We finally gonna have a real conversation about whether or not Rihanna was trafficked to Def Jam.
She was an innocent baby when she came over here. And look
She
at
was
her now.
14 going on 15 years old, flown over without parental supervision in a private plane by a man who was supposed to be a producer who auditioned her at 3 a.m. in the fucking morning in a hotel room, auditioning at 3 a.m. in the morning, a 14-year-old girl.
With no parental consent.
With no parental, nobody. She was flown. She was flown to another country. She was taken to Def Jam headquarters. She was left in a conference room alone with Sean Carter for nearly 6 hours alone with no parental supervision.
Rihanna was essentially sold to Jay-Z when she was just 16 years old. Now, before you say that's crazy talk, let me walk you through the timeline and the facts that even Rihanna herself has confirmed in interviews. Rihanna was living in Barbados, she was 16. A producer named Evan Rogers met her and said he wanted to help her career. Next thing you know, this 16-year-old girl is on a private plane heading to America. There were no parents and no supervision, just a teenage girl flying to a foreign country. That is already weird, right? But it gets weirder. She arrives in New York and she is taken to a hotel where she auditions for Jay-Z. It wasn't at a studio or an office, it was at a hotel at 3:00 in the morning. Again, she is 16 years old in a foreign country with no parents around. What kind of business meeting happens at 3:00 a.m. with a minor? Jaguar Wright alleges that Rihanna's father received a $500,000 payout to allow this to happen, $500,000. And here's the thing, Rihanna didn't have a visa. She didn't have proper documentation to enter the United States legally. So how did she get there? According to Jaguar, she was listed under someone else's name on the private plane manifest. When you're rich and powerful enough, you can move people around without anyone checking IDs on the airport tarmac. Then Rihanna gets to Def Jam headquarters. She's put in a conference room and, according to multiple sources, she was left alone with Sean Carter, that's Jay-Z, for almost 6 hours. There were no label executives, no lawyers, and no parents, just a 16-year-old girl and a man in his 30s. Rihanna herself has said in interviews that they locked her in the office until 3:00 a.m. and wouldn't let her leave until she signed the recording contract. You hear that, strangers? She literally said she moved to a big city to live around strangers. Who were these strangers, and why wasn't anyone protecting this child? Now here's another piece that doesn't make sense. Right before Jay-Z signed Rihanna, he was working heavily with another 16-year-old singer named Tierra Mary. Tierra had been signed to Def Jam by L.A. Reid. She was talented, she was young, and she was getting a lot of attention from Jay-Z. Then Rihanna shows up, and suddenly Tierra Mary gets dropped from the label. Her career just stops. Meanwhile, Rihanna's career explodes. And here's the kicker, Tierra Mary is allegedly the Jane Doe who is now involved in a lawsuit concerning alleged inappropriate conduct that occurred when she was just 16 years old. Are you starting to see a pattern here? Young girls, powerful men, and careers that depend on silence. And one more thing that has always been weird to everyone, Rihanna and Beyonce have never collaborated, not once. They are both under the same label and they are both megastars. They should have had at least one song together by now, but they won't even appear in photos together. Why? Well, if the rumors about Jay-Z and Rihanna are true, that would explain a lot, wouldn't it? Rihanna even tried to tell us something was wrong. Her album Anti came out in 2016, and the album cover shows a young girl, basically a child, wearing a crown over her eyes. The crown covers her eyes so she can't see all the horrible things happening around her. Jaguar Wright calls this a cry for help. The album is called Anti, which means opposed to, like she is opposed to everything that happened to her. But nobody was listening. We were too busy dancing to work to realize she was trying to tell us something dark. 50 Cent had all of this lined up for episode 4, interviews with people who worked at Def Jam, documents showing the timeline, everything. But Netflix said it was too controversial and too risky. Let's talk about Aaliyah because this was supposed to be a huge part of the Jay-Z segment, and 50 had people ready to speak on camera about what really went down. Everyone knows R. Kelly dated Aaliyah when she was 15 years old. They even tried to get married. And the only reason it got exposed was because Aaliyah's parents found out. But here's what people don't talk about. Everyone in the music industry knew what was happening. They all knew R. Kelly was a predator, and most people stayed far away from him because of it. Dame Dash, who was Jay-Z's business partner at the time, has said publicly that he wanted nothing to do with R. Kelly. Everyone knew what kind of man Kelly was. But Jay-Z didn't just work with R. Kelly, he made entire albums with him. It wasn't just one song or one feature, it was full collaborative albums, all while everyone knew Kelly was involved with underage girls. And here's where it gets messy. Multiple people have said that Jay-Z tried to pursue Aaliyah while she was still connected to R. Kelly. Now, there is no definitive proof of this, which is probably why Netflix wouldn't touch it. But Dame Dash started dating Aaliyah when she turned 21. So where was Jay-Z during those earlier years when Aaliyah was a teenager? Why was he so cool with R. Kelly, if not for access to the same circles? Jaguar Wright made some wild claims about this as well. Interview. She claims that she was forced to sign an NDA, a literal blood oath, to keep quiet about what she saw in the industry. She even says her ex-husband was paid by Jay-Z to be her public husband while she was secretly involved with other industry figures. She mentions that after she found out what really happened to Aaliyah, there was no way she could stay silent anymore. Now, I'm not saying I know exactly what Jaguar means by what really happened to Aaliyah, but Aaliyah died in a plane crash in 2001, and there have always been conspiracy theories around it. Some people think she was murdered, some people think it was just a tragic accident, but what we do know is this: Aaliyah was trying to distance herself from certain people in the industry. She was growing up, making her own choices, and not playing the game anymore. And then suddenly she's gone. 50 Cent wanted to explore these connections in episode 4, not to accuse anyone of murder because there's no proof of that, but to show the pattern. He wanted to show how young girls in the industry were passed around, controlled, and silenced. And when they tried to break free, things got complicated, but Netflix wasn't having it. There were too many legal issues and too many powerful people who could make their lives difficult, so they cut it all. Here is something that should terrify you. There are certain people in the entertainment industry who can appear on major TV shows, get interviewed by big-name journalists, and never get asked the hard questions. And when someone does ask the hard questions, that footage disappears. This happened with Jaguar Wright on Piers Morgan. She sat down for an interview and started naming names: Jay-Z, Diddy, Beyonce. She talked about Kathy White, she talked about trafficking, and she talked about murders. Piers Morgan, who's known for asking tough questions, let her speak. The interview aired, people started sharing clips, and then suddenly that segment vanished from the official platforms. That is the kind of power we're talking about, the power to erase conversations from the public record. Now let's talk about Kathy White. If you don't know who she is, you're not alone because Jay-Z has worked very hard to make sure her name disappears from searches. Kathy White was allegedly Jay-Z's mistress, and according to multiple sources, she was pregnant with his child. Then in 2011, she died suddenly. The official cause of death was an aneurysm. She just dropped dead out of nowhere from a brain aneurysm. But here is the thing about aneurysms. They're really convenient when you need someone to disappear. You can't prove it wasn't natural, and there's no way to investigate it years later. It's the perfect cover. Jaguar Wright has made some explosive claims about Kathy White. Interview. Think about that. If Diddy has footage of something happening to Jay-Z's mistress, that means Diddy has leverage over Jay-Z. That means Jay-Z can't completely abandon Diddy even now with all these charges because Diddy could release that tape at any moment. And it's not just Kathy White. There's a whole list of people connected to Jay-Z and Beyonce who have died under mysterious circumstances or had their careers destroyed. Remember Kimberly Thompson? She was Beyonce's drummer. She went to court and filed for a restraining order against Beyonce. The reason? She claimed Beyonce was practicing extreme witchcraft against her. She said she was drugged, hypnotized, and that Beyonce was doing dark magic on her while she slept. Now, you might think that sounds crazy, and maybe it is, but here's what's not crazy. Kimberly Thompson was trained at the Berklee College of Music. She's a brilliant musician who was handpicked by Dr. Terry Lyne Carrington to be in Beyonce's all-female band. This isn't some random person mackin'. Accusations, this is someone with a real career who threw it all away to get away from Beyonce. And after she filed that restraining order, she couldn't find work anywhere in the industry. Blacklisted. That's the kind of power this circle has. They can make people disappear from the industry. They can make people disappear from life, and nobody asks questions because everyone is too scared to be next. You know what's wild? Sometimes the people who seem the most crazy are actually telling the truth. Orlando Brown has been called every name in the book. People say he's on drugs, they say he's mentally ill, and they say he's just trying to get attention. But when he talks about what he saw in the industry, maybe we should listen. Orlando Brown went viral for talking about Diddy's parties. Specifically, he mentioned a 50-foot bed in Diddy's backyard. Interview. Orlando describes this massive bed under the moonlight in Diddy's backyard where these all-night sessions would happen. He says Diddy would be in that bed all day with multiple people. He specifically mentions Rihanna and Jason, which people think means Jay-Z. This was all supposed to be discussed in episode 4. 50 Cent was going to lay out the party scene and show how Jay-Z and Diddy operated in the same circles to prove that they weren't just business associates, but actual partners in some dark stuff. But Netflix wasn't about to air that. Can you imagine the lawsuits? Gene Deal said something really important in one of his recent interviews. Interview. He said that a lot of industry figures were doing things that were kept quiet for years, but now with platforms like YouTube, people can finally speak about what they saw and heard. He made sure to clarify that these aren't street cats, these are entertainers. They don't live by any code, they're just pretending. But here's what happens when you speak up against Jay-Z: your career ends or worse. Remember when Killer Mike won 3 Grammys in one night? That should have been the best night of his life, right? Nope. He got arrested immediately after the ceremony. For what? Some minor altercation with security that could have been handled with a conversation, but instead, he's in handcuffs on what should have been his biggest night. Multiple people in the industry whispered that Jay-Z made a call, that Jay-Z paid someone to make sure Killer Mike's moment got ruined. Why? Because Killer Mike had been speaking out about certain things in the industry, and you don't cross Jay-Z without consequences. So here's the big question: why did Netflix cut an entire segment from episode 4? Why would they remove content that 50 Cent specifically fought to include? The answer is simple: Jay-Z is too powerful. He's not just a rapper, he's a businessman with connections everywhere. He knows people at the highest levels of entertainment, politics, and business. When Netflix executives got wind of what was in episode 4, they realized that airing the Jay-Z tapes would bring down legal hell unlike anything they had seen before. Jay-Z's lawyers would file injunctions, they would threaten lawsuits, and they would call in favors from other powerful people who also have things to hide. Netflix decided it wasn't worth it. They would rather have a safe documentary that tells part of the story than a complete documentary that gets them destroyed in court. We all know who is being discussed, everyone knows, but nobody wants to say it out loud because Jay-Z still has too much power for now. So now I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Netflix was pressured by Jay-Z's legal team to cut this segment? Do you believe the allegations about Rihanna, about Aaliyah, or about Kathy White? Or do you think this is all just conspiracy theories from people with grudges? Let me know what you think because this conversation is just getting started. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay woke.